So I've been using Google Fi now for about 2 years, and I still have the exact same Nexus 6P phone that I've been using with it. So I want to do a follow-up on one to say that I'm still happy with Google Fi, but I want to talk about my overall experience with it. And the Nexus 6P phone I mention here is still working really, really well, battery life and everything else. So I'll start with the phone real quick. I have not really taken this out of the case very often, so it looks as new as it did before. The oleophobic coating is actually somewhat held up, so you can still get a drip on it, and it somewhat bubbles up. It does seem to wear out over time. The camera is still amazing on this. It was a flagship phone when it was released. It's still reasonably competitive phone. It's still reasonably fast. So I don't really have any problems there. And the new Android 8 update to it, outstanding. It actually improved speed, improved boot time. I'm not going to say it's like a new phone, but it certainly boots up a whole lot faster. Not that I reboot my phone once in a while, usually at the fault of navigation. I have not figured this out yet, but occasionally after you're done driving somewhere and I use the navigation, it works fine during, but afterwards the phone becomes sluggish and I just reboot it and the problem goes away. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not consistent, so it's not even something I can really file a bug report for because it just kind of happens and doesn't even show up as battery usage. It just gets slow. But other than that, this phone has been just absolutely trouble-free. Doesn't mean I'm not looking at the new Pixel XL and Pixel X2 phones, and I got some concerns seeing some of the reviews with some people talking about the XL screen problems, and that's concerning. But the phone itself has been dropped many, many times while it's in its case, and no scuffs, no nothing, and the screen is absolutely still flawless. I mean, I've taken this off-roading with me. It's fallen quite a few places, and fallen with me falling and it being in my pocket, and knock on wood, it's really held up. But like I said, I also keep it in a case. So the phone's still happy with it. Now the Google Fi service, a couple things. The Fi service seems to work pretty much everywhere. I'm in the Detroit area. It works wonderful all over I've been in Michigan. It does seem to have some problems in rural areas, but there's not a lot of cell companies once you get to northern Michigan that work in general. There's a lot of dead space up there. I know that they're actually working on more carrier agreements with some of those really rural areas. The only phone service that I've ever been able to get to consistently work once you get to very rural parts of northern Michigan has been Verizon, because they bought out a few years ago a phone company up there to get coverage. But that being said, when you're on the freeway, it works wonderful. They generally seem to have enough cell towers for whichever carrier it's hopping between, and it carries on just fine, and I don't have any issues with the phone. Now, I also have traveled a bit, and not out of the country, but my friends who have taken this out of the country said Google Fi worked well overseas, but it really does seem to work everywhere I went. And they were big cities, of course, Florida, Seattle, where did I go? Florida for the Microsoft Ignite conference, so that was Orlando, and I'd never had any problems at all. One of the really nice things is even when you don't have the best service is Google Fi will jump right over to the Wi-Fi calling and Wi-Fi features, so I can still text, I can still phone call, even if it's no cell signal at all, Wi-Fi only, which I'll go to say is still amazing. And I love it because my computers, as long as I'm logged into a Chrome browser, my computer becomes a phone. You just go to hangouts.google.com and your cell service works through the computer. It's kind of interesting. They still haven't put any restrictions on this. I can call from my laptop and my desktop 2 different phone numbers at the same time, and it lets me work both of them. I thought that was kind of novel when I first got Google Fi, and a couple years later I'm like, wow, that still works. So it makes it very handy because then my laptop pops some headphones in and I have no need to use my phone. Matter of fact, at work, I take all of my cell phone calls generally at my computer with my Yeti microphone and my speakers there. It works wonderful, the same setup I use for recording. So it's been really a pleasure with Google Fi. The billing is not confusing. It's very clear, and I still have the warranty on the phone. Now, I have not broke my phone, but my friend has. And so the warranty people are easy to deal with. But we did find a really big problem that he had. If you're using Google Fi, do not use text messages to get your codes because you'll find yourself unable to log in. So he rarely uses a computer, and when he went and logged in, he's like, oh, I logged in so it wants me to prompt my code, but my phone is dead. you immediately see the problem here. They can't send a text message to the phone to get the authorization for the login because he had a text message two-factor. Absolutely a horrible idea with Google Fi because you're caught in kind of a loop because you can't get the messages to the phone and they can't authenticate you into your Google account. Good news is I have a Google Fi phone, so we actually just popped the chip out of his phone, put it in my phone, got the text message, logged back in the account, and problem solved. And now I have him on the TOTP authentication through Google. That way there's no electronics necessary, so to speak. There's not this need of sending a text message back. We can actually just take the code, and I have him printed it out like I do mine and put them in a safe. That way you can just scan it with anything that supports TOTP, and you have your authentication codes. Did a whole video about why I like TOTP authentication. And Google still supports it. I don't see any reason why they will ever stop supporting it. So overall, really happy with the Google Fi, the billing, the coverage, the support, which I've only ever needed myself to use support one time. And that was because there was an outage and my phone wouldn't make calls. It would receive them, but it wouldn't make them. And it would say carrier not available. This happened a couple of years ago. I called them. They had me punch a code in. They said for an hour, it'll force it onto the other network. I think they said T-Mobile's network was having a problem getting out. But they were like immediately had an answer, had a solution, and it was pretty cool. But even during that, it still worked at my computer. So it was only my phone that was having the problem. And I have not experienced a single noticeable outage since. If there's been an outage, I've been unaware of it. It does not drop calls or anything like that. So it's really been, like I said, it works really, really well. Now, the bad is the confusion about Google Hangouts. So you may have heard, and there's been some articles, that Google's deprecating Hangouts and are getting rid of it. That leaves people like us who even have their phones suggest, the phone pops up and tells me you should be using the Google Texting app. Well, that's great, but how do I get my text messages synced on my computer? They don't seem to have an answer, but Hangout still works. So that's a real bit of confusion. I don't know what the roadmap is for that. If Google said they're getting rid of it, and I believe they said they were getting rid of it in April of 2017, and yes, this is being recorded in October of 2017, so I don't know exactly what Google's plan is. I have their texting app on there. Actually, I use Signal a lot for any encrypted messages, and this is where Google just loses me, because if they actually get rid of the Hangouts completely, will I be able to make phone calls from my computer? Will they come up with a replacement app? Why don't they have a replacement app already? This is a confusing part about that, and it's kind of annoying because I don't like uncertainty for something. And I know people complain that Google kills off products, and maybe they do at times, but you can't. They're not, that I know of at least. I hope they're not killing off Google Fi because I really like the service. So hopefully this was helpful to you. So if you're still thinking about Google Fi, I'm really happy with the service after 2 years and just absolute minimal amount of complaints. But please note, if you are using text message for authentication, one, it's a horrible idea. Don't do it. But if you're using it for Google, make sure if you break your phone, you can get that SIM card out and put it in someone else's phone because you'll find yourself locked out of your Google account. And that's bad. And if you lose the phone completely without the SIM card, that would be even more problematic. So I don't know what the situation is for that. Hopefully you printed the backup codes, which of course he did not. People don't think about that until they're broken and they can't get back in their Google account and are trying to get the phone warranty. All right, thanks for watching. If you like the content here, like and subscribe.